The best things you can do for yourself when you're in Photoshop is when you stop using the type tool, be aware that you just stopped using the type tool and click on the move tool or the selection tool. I think being aware and noticing is actually a step. Because if you keep in the type tool, the next thing you are going to do, which is possibly copy and paste, is going to get typed if you're not careful. It has happened to me numerous times. You think you're not really doing anything and you're doing something. So by the same token, when you come back to an element that you have been typing on and you need to edit it, it can also make a new text box. So now I'm on the move tool, not on the type tool. So I'm going to press Z, the zoom tool, or click on this tool, which is the zoom tool. And again, because I turned off scrubby zoom, I don't want that on, I click that off. Then I can click and drag a box around this small area of type, and I can zoom right in on that. Command minus will let me zoom out. Command minus lets me zoom out. So right here I can see where that half-inch mark is. I want to resize my text, but I want to do it in a smart way. So if I get close to it, I'm not going to have as much of a problem with it, and make sure that the correct layer is selected. I did click on the layer first, and then I'm going to put my mouse right before this letter H, and you'll notice when it's not right before it, it's making a box around it. That means it's going to make new type. And then when I creep up to it, now it's not having a box around it. That means it's going to select. So I'm going to click and drag, and now it's selected, and I'm going to take a look at some of my settings. If you've worked in Illustrator or InDesign before, you'll probably be aware of some of these settings. You'll know them pretty well. I want to get my character panel open. I like this panel better than working with the options bar at the top. It's just easier for me to look at. If I click in the 14-point field here, I just clicked right here in that field, and I use the up arrow. The type will actually get larger by 1 point each. Click, or each arrow press up. So now it's at 16, now it's at 18, 19, 20. Now I have the type at 21 points. And I'm going to come over here to the leading or line spacing number, and I'm actually going to decrease that number. And I'm doing that with the arrow keys on my keyboard. I find that much easier than actually typing numbers in or using a pop-up menu. Now I'm in the type tool again. Very important to click on the move tool, because I can't pick the letter V, which is the move tool key, because it'll type a V. Okay, so then I'm going to move this text over. Now, some people like this. This is another one of these personal preference things. So if you click on this, auto select, click, I just clicked on it. If I click on this one, it should select this one. And if I click on this one, it should select this one. That's fine a lot of the time, but not all the time. It's a preference that I find myself turning on and off on a regular basis. And it's this setting here, auto select, right there. Auto select off. Now I have to actually click on the layer that I want to work on, make sure it's the one that's clicked on before I move something. And I'm actually moving this over more like an inch, so I have that ½ inch mark, but I want it to be more like an inch. And then again, if I wanted to work with the text tool, I'm going to zero in on the thing I want to edit and click when I do not see the box. So when I hover over the text, and now I can hopefully click right before that 9, that seemed to work, PH : space. Okay? Or I could type for info call. That might be nice. Let's see what that looks like. For info call. C-A-L-L, call. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to be happy with that for now. I may drastically change these typefaces at the end, but the first thing I want to do is make sure the type is there and it feels comfortable. Sometimes you will change a typeface and you will hate it. And it will look so different than the original thing that you did. You will see that different typefaces really are sized differently. So here I want to change this text that says the 5th annual. I have to click that layer. Click it. Okay, that selects it. Then when I hover up against it here, I can select this text. I think I might want to put this as an ampersand, so I'm going to select the and change that to ampersand because I think it's cuter. And then I'm just going to play for now with this type. So it's important at this point that I do File, Save As, and save this to my machine. I am going to save this to my desktop as magazine add PSD. You'll know where to save your work. Okay, and I'm keeping it in layers, and I will remind you again that it should be in the Photoshop format, and the color profile was the most versatile and best one for printing, Adobe RGB 1998, and save. Now, it would be wrong of me to not tell you that if I go to Window and I go to History now, I'm going to show you just the History panel as an amazing editing or design tool later on in the course. But right now, it's really important for me to tell you that I could take a snapshot now. This is called a snapshot. And I just clicked that little camera icon on the bottom. And what this is going to allow me to do is have a version, at least for this working time, that if I completely blow it, I can come back to this version as it is right now. That is called a snapshot. When I close the file and open it again, if I have not saved those snapshots as individual files, I will lose them. They're temporary, okay? But I made one, so that's a happy feeling. All right, so now I'm going to zoom back out again, Command minus, and I want to work on some of the controls for my type. By being zoomed out a little bit, I can get a better overarching view of what it looks like, what my design looks like, and I'm going to need to close the history panel so I can see my work and the move tool here. I'm going to go back now and edit this type a little bit. So first things first is I do feel like this type should be a lot bigger, so I'm going to select the whole 3 lines of type and click here on my type tool and use the up arrow to fill it up to the width that I think is maximum width. And then again, you see this is kind of like, well, where's my leading? That's kind of annoying. You know, there's a lot of options that are easier to get to, in my opinion, if you just go to the character panel, which is over here. Okay, so just up arrow on the line spacing. Now it becomes a question of hierarchy with the name. I'm going to select Beaujolais Fest, and I'm going to click in the text size field, and I'm going to increase the size of the text. Can't read the line above it. Okay, so clearly I need to, and I just clicked 5 times quickly on the text. That's also an InDesign thing. I need to increase the line height so I can read the text. And you can see it's starting to crash into the web information. I'm okay with that. I'm going to select the Wine Club and Balloons text, and again click in the size field and make this as large as I want that to be. And now I'm content with that for the moment. I need to move the web address stuff, so I'm going to click on that layer. Click it. All right, I clicked it. And now what's also nice is I don't actually have to click on the screen to move this. I am moving that text with the arrow key on my keyboard. I didn't click it. All I did was select this layer, and then I'm just using the down arrow. If you press the down arrow, you can move things 1 pixel at a time by themselves. If you use the shift in the down arrow, you move things 10 pixels at a time. So that's what I'm doing. I'm moving this text just a few pixels at a time. And in fact, now I think that's silly, and I'm going to turn on auto select. And I'm going to move this. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this to show you how to use the program so that you can really feel like when you start doing stuff, you've had a good example of what it's like to juggle all these pieces around, because let's face it, you're going to have to move them a bunch of times. Okay? All right, so now I'm happier with that. That's a little better, and this should probably be like over here where I can read it. And that starts to feel a little crowded. I'm like, what am I going to do with all my pretty pictures? And then the zoom tool again, zooming in on this poster. I feel like this is probably still too large here. All right, it's 21 points on 25. I think that's probably, you know, for an 8.5 by 11 poster, I think it's probably safe to go with like 18 on 20. I don't know until I print it out really what it feels like. That's me personally. You may feel differently. I always need to print things out If you're not printing things out and you're feeling like, gee whiz, I need to print things out, I would suggest you feel free to do that. All right, so now I'm just still leaving this text left aligned for now. I may change that later. And I'm going to click on the Move tool to set the type. And now I'm going to do another way of zooming out, which is Command 0. And that's fit in window. Command key and 0. Command 0 is fit in window. All right, so this is my text. For now, for better or worse, I'm going to work with this. I'm going to stop this recording.